ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 2 of the series What If Deku Had the Power to Enhance His Physical Attributes. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Izuku's POV. At school the next day. Hey Akibro. Kirishima calls out to me in greeting as I step lightly into the classroom. Hey, I stammer as I slide into my seat in front of the redhead. Sometimes on days like these when I lack the patience to act social, I wish I didn't befriend Kirishima so I wouldn't have to talk to someone. Shoto sends me a quick glance as usual like he's trying to figure out a complicated puzzle, and Bakugo audibly TCHS. Clearly I'm not a class favorite. Kaminari, Shiro, Mina, Tsu, Hagakure, Jiro, and Ochako are all crowded around Kirishima, who is ever the social butterfly, which makes me feel even more introverted than ever. The homework last night was so hard to do. Shiro complains. There was homework. Kaminari says, gasping. Yeah, didn't you pay attention in class at all? Jiro says pointedly at her childhood friend, and Mina snorts. It's Kaminari, what do you expect? Everyone laughs good-naturedly, and I laugh out of obligation. Aizawa enters the classroom perfectly punctual, as usual, and the class settles down to listen to what he has to say. I don't miss the threatening glances thrown at me by Todoroki and Bakugo. They both want to fight me, but I pretend like I'm emotionally and socially blind and ignore them. And now we will have a spar training day, Aizawa says. I straighten up in my chair hurriedly. I daze out for 1 second in class, and this is what happens. I groan internally, already irritated while I pretend to be happily shocked on the outside and pleased. Before that, turn in your homework, please, Aizawa says, and Kaminari grumbles in defeat. Everyone passes their papers up before we are dismissed to go get changed into our hero costumes. My hero costume is basically just what I wear in my UR matches without a mask, but with glasses and my side bag that I always carry with me no matter what. Let's go to Gym Gamma, Aizawa instructs, and we all follow him after we are done changing into our hero costumes. We all shuffle into the gym and Aizawa stands in front of us and instructs us on how the spar will go. You will all draw out a single piece of paper from a jar, and this is how we'll be deciding members. Every single one of you will be fighting 2 other of your classmates. One will be the name you draw, and one will be the one who draws your name. He presents us with a box and goes down the line, having each of us draw out a slip of paper. As my luck is just perfect, I managed to draw Todoroki's name out of the box. Ida pulled Kaminari, who pulled Mina, who pulled me, who pulled Todoroki, who pulled Kirishima, who pulled Bakugo, and so on. All right, Akita and Todoroki, you're up. Anything is allowed. My eyes brighten up at the idea of maybe death, except killing or causing permanent injury to your opponent. I sigh regretfully in my head. I shouldn't have gotten so hopeful. Me and Todoroki set ourselves up opposing each other on the gym floor and prepare for our fight. Begin, Aizawa says calmly, and Todoroki starts circling around me. I inwardly grin at his lack of experience before I pretend to be confused myself and just follow his lead. I sense the air drop in temperature as an icicle shoots towards me at what he probably thought was a fast speed. My classmates gasp, but I dodge it smoothly, launching myself into the air and landing smoothly a safe distance away from the icicle. Todoroki grits his teeth and continues to shoot out more icicles, and I run in a circle around Todoroki, who keeps shooting icicles because that's literally all he can do. I'm basically playing him at this point. His quirk has to have a point of contact with something physical. It can't just branch off somewhere in space, it has to build from the ground, which means Todoroki can't just shoot ice shots at me. That meant I could just keep dodging like this, and since Todoroki knew my quirk enhanced my basic strengths, he wouldn't risk rushing at me, which meant that I could easily encircle him with his own icicles. As I expected, Todoroki also started freezing up due to his quirk drawback, and I looked back at Aizawa-sensei to see if this counted as a win. The tired man just shrugs at me, and I take that as a no. Todoroki grits his teeth as he slowly freezes over. How? I stare at him in confusion. Really? His attacks were all ice-based, even though it was clear he could use both elements. That alone made it easy enough to figure out the rough estimate of his drawbacks along with figure out a fighting pattern and how his quirk worked. It really didn't require a genius to do these kinds of things. Should I just finish him and rid the world of another idiot? I wonder. Maybe. Ugh. I resist the urge and instead crack my neck slightly before pushing up my glasses. While I stutter, maybe you should get smarter and better? Maybe you can focus on your accuracy of attacks or freeze the whole ground, or even use your fire side. I hear a couple of people snort behind me, and Todoroki glares at me. I didn't want to have an easy fight, which is why I didn't freeze the whole ground. And I'll never use my left side. I mentally roll my eyes. Heroes are always going off about giving it their all, and fairness and equality, or how they want to work hard for their results, or how they want to get stronger. Todoroki was clearly looking down on me if he thought that he wouldn't use all of his skills available to fight me. Clearly, you don't have to be a strong hero to even try to save villains. You didn't want to have an easy fight? I say, tilting my head innocently, but my voice is slightly tinted with dark anger. Idiot, a fight is never easy no matter how strong you are. A villain always uses whatever tools and hands they have to play to have the smoothest fight with the results they want. Finish him, my brain thinks again, but I try to ignore my intrusive thoughts. Nothing is ever going to be easy, Todoroki-kun. You have to do everything you can to end things quickly and efficiently. I say, smiling, and it looks innocent to everyone, but directed at Todoroki, it looks a bit menacing, and he instinctively flinches. If you're fighting someone stronger than you, you have to use everything you can for a complete victory. My words hit as intended as I glance meaningfully at his left side. I also implied that I was stronger than him in that sentence. You don't know anything about me. He hisses. How dare you try to tell me what to do? I half bow apologetically, not feeling sorry at all. I'm sorry, Todoroki-kun. He stands awkwardly before I dash forward, so fast that his eyes struggle to keep up with my movements. He sees me running towards him and puts a hand up to shoot another icicle at me. I smirk. He's too easy to read. I'm prepared for his obvious attack, and I jump with a flip over Todoroki before I land smoothly with a twist behind him and knock him out with a chop to his neck. He drops unconscious, and I catch him before lowering him gently to the ground. Some of my classmates are staring at me in awe, and some with fear. Makes sense, I have defeated 2 of the strongest quirk users in our class. And wait till they find out I'm quirkless. Izuku's POV. I pretend to mess with my hair and nervously push my glasses up as if they keep slipping. Recovery Girl is sighing from the sidelines as she heals Todoroki and gives him some chocolate to eat. He's silent and sulking from the moment he wakes up from getting knocked unconscious by me. The rest of my classmates' matches go by quickly, and I don't bother to pay attention. Instead, I clean my lenses of my glasses and pick at the dirt under my fingernails. Akita, Aizawa calls out, and my head snaps up to attention, and I pretend to blush furiously as if I've just been caught doing something I shouldn't have been doing. Something like not focusing in class. You're up? Child, you're against Mina. I twitch slightly. I was picked by Mina. I guess it's an unlucky day for her. Finish her. My brain whispers, and I mentally groan. Could I occasionally figure out different ways to occupy myself without thinking about hurting and ending people's miserable life? I walk out to the little fighting area that Aizawa assigned to us, and across the floor I can see Mina shaking. I almost smirk, but I refrain as I don't want to look crazy and I don't want to mess up my character. I refrain to releasing only a slightly, probably bone-chilling smile that no one else can see. She starts shaking even harder, and I mentally laugh. Even if she tells other people that I gave her an extremely scary smile, I could always write it off to nerves, and that I only smiled nicely to reassure her. Well, good luck, Mina-san. I say politely. Yeah, you too, I guess. She says back to me, her voice shaking. Begin. Aizawa calls from the sidelines. I launch myself at Mina, not as fast as I can go, but she still flinches backwards and tries to dodge. I have a sheathed knife in my pocket, and with enough force I could probably decapitate her. It looks like I summon the knife into my hand with how fast I draw it, and I hear a classmate mutter about the fight being unfair. How unfair would it be if I threw the knife at them and cut their hand off, I wonder? I twitch slightly and display excellent self-control once again as I resist the urge to attack the person. Mina flies backwards and throws some acid from her hands at me, and I let it hit me a little to make it seem like I'm not that good of a fighter. She stares at me, and her gaze grows slightly more confident. I dash in close and bash her head backward with the blunt side of my knife, and it connects with her head before I fling her, and she goes flying. She hits the wall with a thud and leaves a human-sized indent before she crumbles to the ground, and Aizawa declares my win. My classmates rush to Mina's side, and I follow in suit pretending to be scared of myself. What happened? I say, making sure to be just loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm so sorry, Mina. Sorry. I didn't know I was that strong. Sorry. This could plant the idea that I wasn't accustomed to using or fighting with my quirk. I continue repeating sorries at Mina's unconscious state as I help people lift her up and move to the sidelines so Recovery Girl can heal her. Kirishima nods at me before pulling me away from Mina's side gently. Recovery Girl will heal her, and it's pretty manly for you to keep apologizing, but it's going to stress her out more when she wakes up. I shut up then, and Bakugo appears behind me. TCH, you don't even know how to use your quirk. What was that, Bakugo? Quirk? I don't have one, and even so I still managed to beat you and Kaminari during the villain versus hero fights. Unfortunately for you, that was just my pure strength. I think, with a giggle added with a little bit of extra energy boosters. I will once again describe how this thing works. It enhances the amount of energy Izuku has to put out per the amount of work he gets out of it. So basically he gets a more efficient use of his energy and strength, and that would also increase his strength BC. The more energy he spends, the more strength he'll produce, or the faster he'll get. If I'd been trying to actually beat Mina, her head would have been gone by now, and it'd be rolling somewhere, and all that'd be left of her was everything neck down. I smirk mentally. Recovery Girl tends to Mina while glaring at me slightly as if to say, "Why am I always treating so many injured people because of you?" I gaze back at her innocently, making my eyes big and fearful as if I'm terrified of myself. She hemphs and turns back to feeding the groggily awakened and sore Mina some chocolate. Stupid old lady. Hurt is clearly better than dead. She should be thanking me for saving all these people. I glare at her darkly, and my eyes flash toxic green. The final parts of the training end smoothly, and we are dismissed for lunch early. Mina has finally fully awakened, and she's just sore and beat up, but munching on some more chocolate. I'm already by her side, apologizing in as many annoying ways I can think of before she tells me that really she was fine, and that me apologizing so much was starting to make her feel bad. So I shut up with a happy smile internally. Kirishima orders his lunch ahead of me, and I order a bowl of Zurudon. I'm taking a break from my everyday katsudon, and Kirishima notices, but doesn't say anything, only glancing at me curiously. Oi, shitty extra. Bakugo says the moment we sit down at the usual lunch table where Shiro, Kaminari, and him were already seated. Where's the usual katsudon? Good, he took the bait. Oh, I just decided to change things up today, I say with a small innocent smile. I mean, I've always really liked katsudon, but having to through the same thing, meal, every day, is really not my thing. But that's basically what a routine is. Kaminari points out. True, I say with a shrug. I guess it just depends on how long you can stomach a routine and how bad it is. For me, I'm personally not really good with routines. Bakugo TCHS and looks away. Good, he's taking my second bait. Why do you like katsudon? I ask Bakugo kindly. If so, why don't you order it instead of the variety of meals you always pick? The third trap is laid, and Bakugo flinches and says, no. Are you sure? Kirishima teases. Yes. Go, Kirishima. It's manly to say what's on your mind, too. Maybe Bakugo secretly really likes katsudon? Shiro theorizes. Thank you, my allies. This is the one time I do not find you annoying. Shut up, you extras. I don't like katsudon. Bakugo shouts, and I smirk. Oh, that look of regret and despair. I happily take a bite of my udon. So worth resisting the urge to kill the class for a week. Whatever you say, Bakubro. Kirishima says. If lying to yourself is what you consider manly. Clearly the others have noticed how the mention of katsudon has affected Bakugo. And it clearly should. It was my favorite food all throughout my life, and I was always eating it. He would also steal my katsudon when he was stealing my lunches at school. One of the more mild ways he would choose to pick on me. What was that shitty hair? Bakugo shouts, standing up with a slam. I continue to sip my tea and watch the drama while hiding my smirk. I mean, it's pretty clear that you like katsudon, and there's no need to think it's manly to try to deprive yourself of thighs you like. I mean, look at Akita. He likes katsudon, and he's manly. I'm just saying you look quite emotional over katsudon, so if you really like it that much, you can just manly accept it and go eat some. Kirishima points out, and I mentally cheer. Throw some more fuel to the fire, and Bakugo, that despairing, guilt-racked face of yours is indeed worth resisting the urge to unalive our classmates. My dead, Bakugo says, and he breathes in deeply to calm himself. Know my missing childhood friend, the one I told you guys about before he really liked that dish. Bakugo says, not staring at anyone. Oh, I didn't know that. I say with a shocked look, I'm so sorry. This weak personality I was playing was such a weak-hearted character. It was quite annoying. Childhood friend? Missing? Kaminari mutters to himself. Isn't this the person you didn't get along with before? Why are you calling him a friend? What did he do to bother you so much? Exactly, tell us what this unmanly friend of yours did to make your relationship so bad. Especially if you're childhood friends. I'll protect you from him if he comes near you. Kirishima says. I laugh internally as Bakugo flinches. Oh, how you guys thought that I was the one in the wrong. Look at yourself, Bakugo. Will you be able to tell them that you bullied and suicide poor old me every day? Will you be able to tell your new friends that you may be the cause of me going missing? Although I wouldn't give yourself that much credit. I don't want to talk about it. Bakugo says. Oh, and we're sorry. Kirishima says Izuku's POV. The rest of the day passes by uneventfully after my complete emotional victory over Bakugo, and the next day can't come fast enough. I'm practically falling out of my own skin in excitement for the chaos that will be caused by the USJ attack will be causing. Class, shut up and listen. Aizawa grumbles. Clearly someone didn't have their morning coffee today. Today we'll be doing something different. We'll be going on a field trip to USJ to practice civilian evacuation and hero practice on what to do during a natural disaster. This is of course part of your hero training course. Put on your hero costumes, and once you're done changing, meet me at the bus waiting outside. Do you guys understand? Aizawa asks, and everyone says yes excitedly. We're all excited for two entirely different reasons, of course. I for one wanted chaos while they just want to have a field trip and a break from class. I quickly change into my hero costume, and today everyone finishes fast before we all rush out of the school building to the front where a bus is parked. Sit tight. It's about a 15-minute drive. I stare out of the window before I send a quick text to Shigaraki. Hey big brother, I text. I'm finally going on a field trip with my new high school. To anyone else it would look like quite a normal reasonable text. Afterwards I close my eyes and pretend to nap as I plot and plan what and how I should act during the attack. I was supposed to be helpfully unhelpful for the heroes. Calling for help wasn't a way I could call for help since they'd logically pick the fastest and send Ida. I could pretend to fight, but really badly, but that could also not work since my classmates knew I wasn't that bad at fighting. However, I could also pretend to sacrifice myself behind and then justify my loss as either me being exhausted from 1v1 matches the day before or the sheer number of the villains. By sacrificing myself and then losing to the villains, I would drag my classmates away and occupy their time and prevent them from being able to help assist the pro heroes and teachers. I pull out my phone and text Shigaraki a quick coded message. He's labeled my crusty big brother. I know you always say you don't want to play a video game with me, but today when I go home, can I play with you for today? I'll be the bait in that game for you since you never want to play with me, because I'm too bad at gaming to play with you. Shigaraki's texting bubbles show up for a little bit before he sends a fine. I sit backwards and relax for the rest of the bus ride, scrolling and playing games casually. Hurry up and get off. Aizawa says tiredly from the front of the bus as we slowly rock to a stop. Momo and Ida try to direct everyone off of the bus efficiently. I'm one of the last to leave, and we walk through the entrance of USJ. Wow, Kaminari says, mouth open in awe as he sees how big USJ is and how many different scenarios and terrains was set up in the building to help pro heroes in training practice. The entrance of USJ led us to a path that was elevated above the rest of the USJ with large stairs descending down. There was also a large washing machine hero in front of us. Hello, my name is 13, the washing machine says. Wow, that's such a manly and interesting name. Kirishima notes. And wow, look, they even have fake villains. Zero points out excitedly, this place is awesome. Aizawa and 13 spin around in alarm. Huh. Well, I need lotion. Shigaraki was acting quite fast on this attack. Well, not that I'm complaining. Oh wow. I say with fake excitement, doing mental cartwheels to channel this much awe into my voice. We can train even harder to become better heroes in this place. Kids, this is not part of the drill. Aizawa says in a worried voice. These are not fake villains, they're real. 13 says panic evident. Run, students. We'll hold them off, so go back to UA and get help as fast as you can. Why can't we just use our phones? Mina asks confusedly as she pulls out her phone. That won't work, as I've already warned Shigaraki that this sort of thing could happen, and I've already helped build a device to block off cell phone connections in this building. Mina groans frustratedly as she can't get a connection or data. 13 nods. That was obviously going to happen, so I need you guys to get help or get out of this data blocking range. Admirable, but they don't really stand much of a chance against chapped lips or me with our plans. But we're heroes in training, we can help. I say, following my role and being stupid and dumb and trying to slow the heroes down in this situation. Manly maybe? Kirishima whispers. Just go. Aizawa shouts desperately, you guys don't have enough training right now to deal with this amount of villains. At his words, a lot of my classmates start to rush towards the doors and entrance of USJ, trying to get out. Time for me to be more stupid. I swear I can help. I cry. There's really nothing you can do to help. Just leave and get help. Please stop being stupid. Aizawa says, go, problem child. Staying behind like this will only make this situation harder for us. My skin prickles and feels cold the moment Aizawa says that there's nothing I can do to help out. It reminds me a little too much of all those countless times that I've been told that I was useless or a leech to society. I shiver. Maybe I should finish him and show him that I'm not useless anymore. I calm down. For once my impulsive thoughts were right. I wasn't useless anymore, and I still needed Aizawa, so I can't end him yet. I still needed to use him to his full potential. So for now, this was probably as much time as I can waste for now. I turn on my heel and go under the pretense of chasing after my classmates, and I hear Aizawa breathe a sigh of relief and mutter, at least they're safe. Oh, Aizawa, I'd feel sorry for you since you're sort of a nice hero, but you're so naive it's laughable. I run a little bit faster, and there's a black portal that appears before all of the students, blocking us, just as planned. Hirojiri pokes his face through the warp, and he politely says, I'm sorry, but I can't have you guys escaping. The villains have reached Aizawa and 13's position by now, and even though our teacher's eyes widen in fear for us, he can't detangle himself from the swarm and mob of villains to help his students. Hirojiri sweeps over everyone with his portals, and he warps my classmates and me into our respective portals and locations in USJ, while shooting me a knowing look, to which I send a small, innocent, but chilling smile back at him. I'd already supplied Shigaraki with information on all of the quirks of my classmates, and their little clearing a further while down, and the men get to work breaking and damaging the buildings a little bit before I cut and hit myself up, making it look like I got beaten up. Or I try to look a little more intimidating. I say, and the guys take up the stances I've shown them before, and Owari is above me along with another guy who holds a knife to my throat. I double-check it to make sure everything looks okay. Okay, good, all we have to do is wait now. If anyone hears anything, just whisper a code word, which will be dry skin, and you will all get into your respective positions. They all stand in a circle around me, their bodies at ease. For about another 5 minutes, everyone is just chilling, standing roughly in their correct positions, just out of their stances, and someone finally whispers, someone's coming. And I grumble with relief because my back and butt are about to freeze off in the cold. I won't let you get past me. I shout theatrically as Owari stands over me with a knife in his hand and a sorry look on his face. There's another villain standing over me, also with another knife in his hands, but he doesn't look as apologetic. As if you can stop us, you brat. Owari says, and his tone not matching his very I'm sorry face. Yeah, the boss is right. A villain from the outer circle, which is encircled around me, chimes in. You're just a nobody to our boss. Bakugo appears over the ridge, and seeing me beat up in the scene before him, he frowns deeply. Hey you, can't you just get up? You defeated half and half, for God's sake, don't tell me you're losing to these weak villains. Owari backs away from me a little bit, and I make the great show of pretending to struggle while sitting up. Half an act and half real, because the snow has frozen like half of my body. Owari faces Bakugo, who is the newest threat. The other villains half glare at me and half glare at Bakugo. Boss, we'll get this weak kid. Just stay back and relax, and keep an eye on the other loser. A couple villains shout. All right. Owari says, eyes never leaving Bakugo. I'll let you guys deal with it. Hey you shitty extra, you better not die while I'm cleaning up your mess. Bakugo shouts as he charges at the villains. I roll my eyes mentally as I back up carrying myself like I'm injured, and I back up all the way to a wall, and per our acting script the remaining villains surround me once again. All Might should be here any second now, and these villains will probably be defeated by the LOV after this mission. Except for Ishizaki Owari. He wasn't dying if I could help it. He gave me hot chocolate after all. And he's the first person I haven't had a thought about killing for a while, probably since he's the first person to do something kind for me in a long while. Even knowing that I was a villain and a mass murderer. Owari fights Bakugo a little bit along with 2 other villains, and I pretend to fight the other 3. All Might comes crashing through the USJ roof, which shatters like rain and falls like deadly bullets from the sky. That means Ida was able to get out and call for help, and it was all going according to plan. All I had to do was just keep Bakugo stalled here. I pretend to shout while falling down onto one knee with a knife stuck in my right thigh that I stabbed in myself, while Bakugo wasn't looking. Bakugo glances at me and then around a bit desperately, as if he realized the situation he was in currently. Need a helping hand? I hear the Ice Queen appear and say, and I finally give up with a sigh. Time for the villains to get out of here. I crush a little device bead in my pocket, which will signal that we can't stall for any longer without risking capture. This should be long enough to keep the 2 strongest students from assisting All Might and Aizawa. From studying Bakugo and Shoto in class, I know they're most likely about 99% chance going to chase after the retreating villains. TCHS, those losers are running away. Bakugo hisses as expected once he sees them disappear into the inky warps of Kurogiri's quirk. Would you have rathered them to stay and get caught and possibly reveal my personality in a boring way? Then I'd have to finish everyone too, since that's not fun. Shoto is pressing pieces of ice onto the cut on my thigh and checking my other wounds, and Bakugo has finally tromped off somewhere to look around for any remaining villains. Shoto builds a thin ice platform for me to lay on, and Bakugo comes back to help carry me like I'm on a makeshift cot. The pain in my leg from the stab wound and my other cuts and the cold feeling of the ice makes my pain receptors work overtime to the point they just gave out, and I feel numb. Although the thing that hurts the most is the part of my body that rests atop the ice cot. Izuku's POV. We leave the blizzard section of USJ, and in the middle I can see Shigaraki, All Might, and the Nomu all engaged in a fight. I lay on my ice stretcher having a gut feeling that will fail miserably, since from what I can see of the fight, the Nomu isn't ready to win yet. The Nomu was currently fighting with All Might, and to the inexperienced eye it looked like they were fighting on equal footing, but I could see that it was only a matter of a couple seconds until the Nomu would lose. Shigaraki clearly made a deathly calculation of the strength of his creation, or maybe he knew. Todoroki and Bakugo carry me closer towards the center, and they're probably planning to pass to put me down somewhere close by, and then go help out in the fight. However annoying Shigaraki might be, I couldn't afford to have him get captured. I still needed his support to get my full revenge. I sit up straight and jump off my stretcher, rushing towards the middle where the water fountain was before my 2 carriers get closer. Time to cosplay a suicidal kid like I don't care about my life. I mean, that wasn't exactly wrong, but I still wanted to complete my fun little plan. As I run towards Shigaraki and the Nomu like I'm about to attack them, all the while my mind whirls at fast speeds trying to figure out a play to get us out of this situation safely. I also see the Nomu's attacks and try to take notes of how to fix it, because that would be what Shigaraki would want most out of this fight. Well, second to All Might's death. Shigaraki's eyes widen as he hears me first and turns towards me, and they widen further when they see me hurtling at him as if I'm about to attack. Shoto and Bakugo are calling after me, trying to get me to worry about my life. I try to jump, but instead lurch, not exactly an act due to the rather deep cut I've self-inflicted in my own thigh. As I expected, the Nomu still has flaws that we haven't noted, and seeing as how I'm posing a threat to its master, while also being its other master, it was confused into standing still. This is also part of the plan I've calculated, and as expected, this gives All Might a chance to destroy it with one strong punch. I've reached Shigaraki's side by then, and since he's a little distance away, All Might I pretend to attack, or try to. I stumble at the last second on purpose, which launches me further towards Shigaraki, who catches me with a hand on my head. As I expected, Shigaraki then uses me as a human shield against All Might, who looks conflicted on what to do. Shigaraki lowers his head next to mine and whispers, "What do you think you're doing? Can I count this as a betrayal on your part?" I swallow and plan my next words carefully. One wrong word, and I would start decaying. You just. Drawbacks, so each place or location we were being sent to is meant to exploit the weaknesses of their quirks. Except for me, since I don't have a quirk, so there were no quirk drawbacks for me. I laugh maniacally as I'm spit out in a place that I'd judge best for my role in this attack. I'd handpicked some of the villains and informed them on how I wanted to act things out. They would obviously be killed afterwards for knowing too much. I might pick one or two that I'd like and keep them alive. Where are we? Siyu asks. It's bitterly cold, and I regret placing myself here. Siyu, whose biggest quirk drawback was the cold, being a frog, was an obvious choice here. There's Shoji here and Aoyama, also making us a 4-person team. Shoji was here because the snow made it harder for him to see or hear, and Aoyama would stand out in the white snowy background. Mina acid fire, there was a chance that the fire could evaporate Mina's acid depending on the concentration of it and how strong it was. Tokoyami dark shadow fire, his only weakness was light. Urarik anti-gravity hurricane, it was windy, that was the only thing I could think of. Hagakure invisible earthquake, no reason. Momo, creation earthquake, no reason. Jiro, earphone flood water could dampen sound, etc. Mineta sticky hair earthquake, BC useless, and no reason. Ida speed ran away. Bakugo explosion hurricane, BC rain can wash away sweat. Shoto ice and fire trauma. Sato sugar earthquake, no reason. Ojiro tail flood, BC the water can dampen his movement. Koda speaks to living things, IG fire, no animals, IG. Zero tape flood, nothing to grasp onto to swing /00/. Kaminari electric flood, he can't use electricity without risking attacking his own classmates. Kirishima, hardened fire, BC, no reason. It is pretty unmanly of us to keep pushing you when you don't want to talk about it, and we don't know anything. Apologize to him. I cackle mentally. Look at him suffer. I hope you feel all the guilt in the world, Kakin, or I'll be so disappointed. Bakugo tchs weakly and looks away with a dark, faraway look. Izuku's POV. Mon Ami, I'm so scared. Aoyama says, shivering in the cold, snowy temperatures. Tiu has already frozen up completely and is immobile, and Shoji had picked her up and was carrying her on his back, trying to keep her warm with his arms. Aoyama glances enviously at Tsiu's sleeping form and her cozy position on Shoji's back that was clearly a lot warmer than out here in the blizzard temps. I wish I was a frog now. Then I can be asleep right now and I wouldn't have to do anything. Aoyama complains, and I resist the urge to knock him out and to leave him dying in the cold by calmly breathing in and out. Me and Shoji just end up exchanging glances with each other. Hey, kids. A villain says, popping out of nowhere. Lost. Do you need me to guide you? He asks with a nice smile. Just like he was instructed, he was following the script perfectly. Oh, I'm so scared. Please don't hurt us. Aoyama says, huddling behind me and Shoji. You guys run away first. I say, stuttering a bit and pretending to swallow nervously before pointing towards the exit of the blizzard biome. Get help for me, or call someone, please. I'll try to fight them off while you run. I say, directing this at Shoji, since, well, Aoyama is Aoyama, and he obviously won't choose to stay around if he has a choice to leave. Shoji looks at me. Are you sure it's okay to leave you like this? I nod. Yeah, I will be fine, and try to hold them off so that you can run off and get help. Let's go quickly. Aoyama cries before rushing off. Shoji throws me a worried glance, and I try to look as confident and nonchalant as possible. He looks doubtful, but he shakes his head, and they leave together. So it isn't just you, right? I ask the villain. Oh, yeah, the rest of them are on their way. The villain says. Okay, good. I say, sitting down with a plop, and the snow crunches beneath me. It's cold. I mutter. Cold. Here. The villain says, pulling out a coat for me from out of nowhere. Wear this for now. Oh, thanks. I say. It's warm, and I smile gratefully at him. Let's keep our voices down for now in case they're still around. Although I doubt they would be here because of Aoyama. So you're Izuku Midoriya, or do you want to be called Akita? The villain asks, looking at me curiously. I still can't believe that the Twisted Reaper is this young. Please, my age has nothing to do with this. I say, rolling my eyes. And you don't have a quirk, right? The villain says. That's right. I say with a shrug. Wait, so how did you become a villain? I say, raising my eyebrows. I just gave myself a permanent boost of energy, I guess, and I'm more mutant, although my physical appearance has changed, and I don't have drawbacks, I guess. Oh, the guy says before handing me a cup of hot chocolate. He spawned out of nowhere. So what's your quirk and role? I asks curiously, I had already handpicked a couple of guys randomly out of a list of villains and handymen that Shigaraki had offered me. They were of weaker skills so that if they died it wouldn't be too much of a loss to the LOV. I'm not exactly villainous and my ability is really small and rather weak. I can just put small to medium-sized things into an alternate dimensional plane, which is how I've been able to hand you all these things. But I can't hold on to more than 10 items. The guy says, and oh, my name is Ishizaki Owari. Not that you need to remember that. I smile. Ishizaki Owari, giver of hot chocolate and coats, how will I ever forget that? He smiles back warmly at me, and I hear voices say, wow, Owari, is that you? I tense up. Did you find the kid yet? Oh. Excluding Owari, there's another 5 villains that gather, and I stand up clutching the coat around me. Is this all of you? I ask and they all nod at me. Most of them are looking at me curiously and a bit strangely. Okay, so for now we're going to be talking about our acting that's going to go on soon. I'm not going to blow my cover and everything, so I'm going to make it seem like I'm being helpful while actually all I'll be doing is slowing them down. Helpfully unhelpful. They all nod. So what we're going to do today is you guys are going to attack me all at once in a moment, and I will pretend to lose, and those classmates I've just sent out to call for help will return with more people, and hopefully we can play it off well enough that it looks like I'm about to get injured or lose, and that way I will be able to stall my classmates so that Shigaraki will have time to kill All Might. Which is our goal for today. If any information here is leaked or you guys are caught, I will unalive this entire school and your family and your friends, and I will then proceed to try and do the same to the entire world. It'd be a shame since I'll have to give up my revenge, but still nonetheless it will be slightly worth it. I smile innocently and I stare them down. They all shiver slightly and I clap my hands together. Good, alright, sounds like you all understand me. Let's get going to a slightly different area. The idiots will probably have reached someone else right now, and they'll be returning soon. The fire zone was close by, and maybe I could fish one of my stronger classmates. Maybe Todoroki or Bakugo by now, and I can stall them from the fight going on right now between Shigaraki and Aizawa. Defeating Aizawa would be the first step towards defeating All Might, since we would be able to get rid of the erasure quirk that Aizawa had. We reach A. Need to know you can't kill Ishizaki Owari. I blurt out. If he feels confused, I'm gambling that it's better than angry and instant death. I'll take him under my control. I mean, he gave me hot chocolate after all. My back is to the heroes so they can't read my hips, and I'm whispering so that they can't hear. You stopped the mission just to tell me that? Do you really want to die? Shigaraki hisses. If I unalive you, I can do the same with this idiot Ishizaki too, or whatever. I calm down and stop blabbering randomly. It's not needed anymore. Clearly, anyone smart could have sawn that your Nomu was going to lose this fight. I shoot back and Shigaraki sighs. Yes, I know, but you could have just given me a chance to study their differences and strengths a little longer. I had it under control. I already finished noting their strengths and differences. And you don't have it under control. How were you planning to escape if you lost your Nomu? I say, rolling my eyes. I was going to break the collar soon until you showed up. Shigaraki says pointedly. Hirojiri is busy with all the others. It'll take him a minute or so to respond, and by then your Nomu would have already lost in the first 45 seconds, and then you'd be dead before Hirojiri can arrive. I tell him. Shigaraki doesn't respond, and I continue. In fact, you should be thankful I'm saving your Krusty, but right now, so that you can try to kill All Might again. I mean, it's not like I want All Might to be alive either. And I'm even risking my cover to save you. I'll probably have to talk to that Sakachi man about what we're discussing right now. Also, please tell me you've already broken the collar. I beg. He nods. Ever since you tried to attack me. Good, at least you're smart enough to do that. You should be here soon then. Our conversation finishes fast, and All Might has also started to yap heroic cliché phrases at us, specifically Shigaraki, who is half-heartedly responding while I try to look pitiful and scared. Only a bit longer, and then Kurojiri arrives. Aizawa and 13 are still alive surprisingly, and fighting their respective villain mob. Aizawa is trying to get to me to save me, but the sheer numbers of villains are overwhelming him until Bakugo and Shoto start to help them out. Young Shonen. All Might says at last, directing his heroism towards me. Can you free yourself? I mentally facepalm. How stupid could this man get? I pretend to be mute due to fear and try to portray with my eyes no. Shigaraki huffs a dry laugh, and at last a warp portal finally opens and Shigaraki leaves me alone to step through. Consider yourself lucky. He says, not having to shout over the noises of fighting since he didn't need everyone to know, and I'll spread what he said anyways, that your precious symbol of peace isn't dead. And then he disappears, and I resist the urge to jump in after them. The still conscious villains fighting Aizawa and 13 are also able to flee, but the unconscious ones are left. Beside the Blizzard area villains, none of them knew of my involvement or anything extra, so that was okay. Plus, the Blizzard ones would be killed later except for Ishizaki if Shigaraki listened to my words. I collapsed to the ground, my fingers digging into my stab wound, drawing fresh vital fluid, and All Might rushes over to my side to help me. He opens his mouth as if he's about to ask me something, and then I proceed to pass out on purpose so that I can avoid and delay any questioning. When I wake up again, I'm in a hospital bed. I'm sure I'll probably get funny looks and people will think, well, why didn't the villains kidnap him? And to which I will think back with they're not stable enough as an organization to be able to support something as big or revolutionary as the kidnapping of a UA student. Perhaps later, if you really want that to happen, I can recommend it as a plan to Krusty Lips. There's a couple of my classmates sitting next to my hospital cot, which surprises me. The students that were with me, Shoto or Bakugo, were unharmed, but all the others had some minor injuries. He's awake, I hear someone say, and then all of a sudden there's a flood of lively chatter from my classmates directed towards me. There's Kirishima, Kaminari, Shiro, Uraraka, Jiro, Mina, Frappi, Hagakure, Momo, Shoji, and Aoyama. You were so manly out there, but I'm glad you're safe. Kirishima tells me. Thank you, Aoyama says awkwardly, probably forced by the other kids to tell me that. I smile back wholesomely. Thank you. You and Shoji saved my life when you sent Bakugo and Shoto to help me. He shouldn't have left in the first place. Mina mutters, Shoji I get, but Aoyama could have stayed. It's really not his fault. I say, continue to smile up at them. Not too long, or that's creepy. I asked him to. I'm just glad that no one got really hurt. Kaminari and Uraraka say at the same time. Hey, Kaminari says, stop copying me. Uraraka rolls her eyes and pats my shoulder gently, making sure first it's not injured. I really am glad that you're okay. You don't know how sad our class would be if our Sunshine Child died. Sunshine Child, isn't that a bit lame of a name? Shiro says. Okay, well, what do you guys want it to be then? Momo asks. Mina's hand shot straight up. I got it, cinnamon roll. I smile up at them again, my facial features hunting because I'm out of practice. Everyone claps at that, and there's a lot more well-wishing before a doctor rolls open the door and tells them he has to check up on me. Siyu and Shoji are the quiet ones, and they haven't said anything so far. Besides, I'm glad you're okay. They stay behind a little bit. Thank you for everything you did, Akita, really. They say in unison and smile at me. While Shoji's eyes smiled at me, and then they left my room too. I finally relaxed backwards into my bed, acting cheerful and innocent, and what did they call me? Cinnamon roll. Why was altogether tiring after you've woken up after a short coma? Izuku's POV. I'm kept in the hospital for another 5 days until I'm released. I'm the last out of all my classmates as I had the worst of injuries. My classmates and teachers have been regular tiring visitors, and once Detective Tsukachi came to visit and question me, but the doctors and nurses ushered him away when I pretended to be exhausted, tired, and drained. Now that I was released, I would have to go and talk to him as I promised, answering questions on what happened on the day of the USJ attack. All my other classmates in Aizawa and 13 were questioned, and they'd already interrogated the villains they'd caught. From what I heard, they didn't get any useful information out of the villains other than the fact that the villains were all hired by some sort of small criminal organization. Detective Tsukachi doesn't even know the name of the organization. I had promised to answer whatever questions Tsukachi had on what happened. I slipped on some normal sweatpants and baggy jeans along with some black boots, a normal outfit on my part along with a pair of non-prescription glasses. Once I'm done, I leave the hospital, and the nurses at the reception desks hand me some of the stuff I had on me when I was injured at USJ, mostly my bag, which had a wallet and a couple of fake journals and notes on heroes. From there, Detective Tsukachi is waiting at the hospital entrance to pick me up before he would drive me to a police station to question me properly. We get there quickly from the hospital, and I lower myself into a chair in a small interrogation room. Of course, it's much more comfortable than an actual interrogation room, as I'm not tied up, and I'm also given some refreshments to consume while talking. We're finally able to talk. Detective Tsukauchi says friendly as he settles himself down into a chair across from me. I let out a bit of a dry chuckle. Sorry, I wasn't feeling that good recently to answer too many questions. Well, I hope that you can further provide us with more insight on what happened on the day of USJ. Tsukauchi says, folding his hands. I've already researched Tsukauchi's quirk, and from what I understand, he's basically a living lie detector. However, from what I've tested, as long as there is a bit of truth in my statements, it won't be able to easily label my statement as a lie or truth. In fact, I could practically guarantee that it would almost 100% be counted as true by his quirk. I also hope that I can learn more of what happened at the USJ incident. I say, it's true I want to know more about what happened so that I can better plan for the next attack we might make. I want to know more about what sorts of weaknesses the Nomu had compared to All Might, so I can create a new one to better live All Might. Alright, if you don't mind, I will start the questioning. I actually do mind since I don't want to get questioned, so I can't say yes, only nodding my head as if I agree. First, before I do any severe and strict questioning, can you give me an entire summary of what happened during the USJ accident? I'm prepared for this question, and it's not like I have anything to lie about. Luckily, all my actions were made and planned, so that it looks like I was doing something helpful for the heroes. Well, for me personally, what I remembered was that when we arrived at USJ Kirishima, or someone went, "Oh, there are real villains in this simulator, cool," or something along those lines. Tsukauchi nods. That was probably quite accurate and lined up with everyone else's statements. And then I told Aizawa that we were all heroes in training and that we can stay behind to help him in 13 fight. And he said that we don't have enough training, or experience, or strength to fight the villains with them. Aizawa and 13 told us to run to the entrance and to save ourselves, and that they would stay behind and hold off the villains for us. I say, pretending to make my voice small and shaky as if recounting my tale was wounding me in some way. I continue my act by taking in a deep shaky breath. And then when we tried to leave the USJ building, this dark smoky villain thing popped out of this portal-looking thing, and he blocked our path. I think maybe during this time Ida managed to free himself and get out of the building and try to get help and back up. For the rest of us, though, we were thrown into a portal and were transported to different areas of the USJ simulation. I was sent to a blizzard natural disaster area with Aoyama, Shoji, and Froppy. I rub my face a bit as if it pains me to recount this, and Tsukauchi looks a bit worriedly at me. He probably thought that if I had this feeble of a mindset, I'd probably have a difficult time as a pro hero. Froppy went unconscious due to the cold, and Shoji was forced to carry her. We were trying to leave the blizzard natural disaster area when a villain popped out of nowhere with a knife, and I told the other two to run and get help or back up, and I would hold off the villain. They left with Tsuyu, and I managed to hold the villain off at first. But then it came with the backup of another 5 villains, and before I knew it, I was surrounded. Nothing I've said so far is a lie, and Tsukauchi continues to look at me attentively as I continue to spill honeyed lies to his ear. I was doing my best to hold them off, this time not just for my classmates who I told to go ahead, but for my own life. But then Bakugo and Shoto showed up and basically saved me. I breathe shakily again, and he looks at me pitifully. Good pity is better than suspicion. They were beating the villains when another warp portal appeared, and the villains managed to escape. Shoto created an ice platform for me to lay on, and Bakugo helped carry me towards safety. We passed the central area of USJ where Aizawa, 13, and All Might, who'd just arrived, were fighting villains. There was a large dark inky blue or blackbird-looking thing that was fighting All Might, and there was a man with his face covered with hands standing nearby spectating. I'm sure that Shoto and Bakugo was going to carry me a bit further to safety, or what was considered safe there, and then return to help out in the fight. I pause, but I felt some sort of gut feeling, and I instinctively knew that we were going to lose if I didn't act. We were going to lose, just not the heroes' team. Krusty Lips was going to lose, so I jumped off my little makeshift cot that my classmates had made for me and just dashed towards All Might. I had a strong feeling that something terrible would go wrong here. It would, but it would be our Nomu's terrible death and perhaps Krusty Lips' capture. I tried to do anything to help out, but the leg injury I'd received in my leg caused me to stumble at the last second as I was on the way to attack the man with hands on his face. This confused that large bird-looking thing, giving All Might a perfect opportunity to destroy it. But that stumble launched me into the handed man's range, and he grabbed me. This sort of created a hostage situation where I was used to hold off All Might's attack until the portal man appeared, I guess. And then I passed out. I clear my throat and drink some of the lemonade that's presented before me. I debated if this was intoxicated before I drink it, and then remind myself that I've built up a bit of poison resistance during my life along with a high tolerance to pain. Thank you for all that. This information will be very useful to discovering the identities of these villains and defeating them. Can I ask you some questions about USJ on top of what you've already told me? Tsukachi asks. I nod again, and Tsukachi fiddles his thumbs and clears his throat, clearly nervous before he starts with his questioning. I'll go chronologically so it's easier for me to understand and record our conversation. Do you remember what the villains that attacked you in the blizzard biome looked like and what their quirks were? He asks, starting off with the big questions I see. They clearly already knew of Kurogiri's quirk, seeing as how he wasn't asking about it, and I think quickly. They were all guys from what I remembered, and they wore plain clothing and looked quite normal and not out of place. They also had simple clothing, and for their quirks they all were equipped with knives that they used to fight and never explicitly used their quirks to fight. I say, I'm not lying, as I don't exactly know any of their quirks, and no one used their quirk to fight since there was no fight. I see Tsukachi writes truth down onto his paper. Alright, next question. Could you tell me how long you think you were alone with the 6 other villains? An estimate is fine. From what I counted, I was probably alone with those idiots for 6 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes. I don't remember that well, you understand. I was fighting for my life. I say, twisting my fingers as if I'm nervous. Truth. Tsukachi writes again. I understand that you were saved by Bakugo and Shoto, but you unconsciously choose to rush back into battle even though you were injured because you had a feeling that something bad was going to happen. Can you tell me if you had a conversation with this hand villain, as you call him, when he used you as a human shield? Tsukachi asks. I debated risking a shake of my head as a no and lying this way, but I had a feeling that it would make Tsukachi more suspicious than anything. He did. I say, finally pausing as if I have to think about it. Can you tell me what he said to you? Tsukachi asks, his eyes lighting up with interest. I breathe in deeply, trying to buy my brain a split second to put together a thought process. In the split 3 seconds I have breathing in and out, I make up a plan to safely answer his questions truthfully, but cover up what we actually talked about. Well, first he asked me who I was, and then he continued to brag to me that he was going to take down All Might and rid the world of its symbol of peace. He was going off about having to buy so much lip product and hand cream products, and how expensive those were. Tsukachi stares at me for a moment, as if trying to puzzle something out. All of the things I've told him so far about our conversation were actually conversations we've had. Adhering to the rules of his quirk and the fact that Tsukachi didn't know I was a villain, he had no choice but to write truth on his paper despite the puzzling context I'd given him. That is interesting that you'd have a conversation like that in the middle of a fight. Tsukachi says seriously. I'm not exactly an expert on the ways a villain thinks, so I can't exactly tell you why he said that. But he was quite threatening most of the time, and I did feel as if I was threatened. I say, rubbing my neck as if I was nervous or still fearful about something. Tsukachi continues, looking at me curiously. That really is a curious thing otherwise. Well, thank you for sharing. I understand this questioning was hard on you. Can I offer to drive you back to your home? I stand up from my chair and lower myself into a politeful bow and refuse his offer to drive me home. Thank you for the kind offer, but I'll be fine. Thank you, though. I say before I leave the police station as quickly as I can without seeming suspicious. I make it home safely without too many problems, and I slump into my bed tiredly. I spent all day in the hospital sleeping, and sleeping again seemed boring, so I pulled myself out of my bed. Maybe I'll end someone's life to release some of the pent-up stress. However, being tired and bored was the worst combination, and I collapsed in my bed and took a quick nap. It's about 2 p.m. when I fall asleep, and when I wake up it's dark out. My phone says it's midnight, meaning I've slept close to 10 hours. That should be enough for the next 3 days. Izuku's POV. On my way, there is someone harassing a high schooler, and I grab him by the collar casually, my hood up and the shadows hiding my face and identity. The high schooler girl runs off, and I hear her dial a number, most presumably calling 911. The man struggles in my grip, trying to break free, and I drag him a little farther by the neck into the alley. His heels drag along the floor, and I raise him up with a yank. I pull his face closer towards mine, and he shivers. My eyes are glowing radioactive green under the shadows of my hair and hood, and I hiss. I may be a villain, but at least I have some standards. I sliced the man's head clean off at the neck with a knife I keep with me all the time, and his body slips down from my grasp, leaving only the head in my hands. I throw it off to a side, and the head bounces for a bit, and I watch absent-mindedly before I roll my shoulders. Time to make myself scarce before the police that girl called arrived and asked questions. Shigaraki's bar's door opens with a slam as I kick it open with a foot. "Here's a towel," Kurogiri says immediately after seeing me at the entryway. He hands me a wet cloth for me to wipe the stain on my hands off, and Owari is sitting next to Shigaraki, still alive. His eyes widen when he sees me. "Did you finish the others?" I ask casually to Shigaraki. He ignores me, and Kurogiri has to answer for him. "Yes, we did. Thanks for leaving Owari alive like I asked." I say absent-mindedly, and Shigaraki huffs. "All right, aren't you at least a bit happy with the results of the attack?" I finally ask. "Happy?" He says incredulously. "How would I be happy when we couldn't even achieve our only goal of killing All Might?" I roll my eyes. This attack was to take down All Might, yes, but we couldn't do that. You already knew that your Nomu wasn't strong enough to do it. This mission ended up being an information-collecting mission to see the weaknesses of UA's defenses and figure out how to create a Nomu that will actually have a chance of killing All Might. In the end, at least you weren't captured, so I would count this mission as a slight success. Shigaraki sighs before he picks up the bottle of hand cream I got him, and he spreads it on his hand. "You're right," he finally says after a long minute of sulking. "The Nomu had a lot of flaws. Can I make a new one?" I ask, finally asking the question. "That was the reason I came all this way. Do whatever you want. I can't stop you anyways." Shigaraki says, giving up. "Thanks," I say gleefully. "Killing All Might. Sounds fun." Owari looks confusedly between us, and I point at Shigaraki. "Why was I spared?" he asks, pointing at himself. "Did you want to die?" I ask, laughing a bit. "That's a new one." "No, but I mean like you and lived everyone else." "Are you bothered by that?" Shigaraki says, "I can finish you too. I'm just curious why I was spared." "Well, hot chocolate," I say simply, pacing around the room. "I guess it doesn't have to make sense." Owari says, "I'm a villain already, so it doesn't really change too much for me. Thank you for finally being a reasonable soul." Shigaraki says, rolling his eyes. "What's wrong with me?" Kurogiri and I say at the same time. "Both of you are reasonably insane. You're not that much better." I mutter. "I heard that." Shigaraki says, and I stop pacing around the room and hop onto one of the worn sofas, lounging comfortably. How would I create a completely new Nomu? It would probably take a lot of new experimenting to be able to create a successful prototype that will be on level with the strongest pro hero of Japan and maybe even the world. I figure out a mental map of what I'll have to do to be able to clear the creation of a perfect Nomu. "Can you stop mumbling? I'm trying to play a game." Shigaraki complains, and I roll my eyes. "Move your fat body, I want to play too," I tell him while rushing over to grab another control. Owari, who was watching the whole interaction go down, spits out his water while choking on laughter. "You want to join us too?" I ask, raising an eyebrow at him, and he shrugs. "It depends on what you're playing. Just some Mari KRT for now." I say. I thought that the LOV would be boring at first, but having time to bond and becoming best friends with other people for the first time in my life is pretty great. Is what I would say if I wanted to sound cringy. I think, rolling my eyes. But as I watch Kurogiri look at us and yell instructions like a mom to make sure not to get too close to the TV, and what did we want for dinner, while the three of us game, treating the car race like life and death, I am a little glad that the lonely hole inside me is getting covered at least. Scars don't heal completely ever, and trauma carries on the soul. I know that from personal experience, but having a small curb to the continuous pain felt nice. I roll my eyes. I was starting to think in a little too sappy way. Maybe the heroes were really getting to me. I returned to school the next day, feeling exhausted from a night of gaming and watching Shigaraki game while raging. My classmates rush to my side the moment I slide open the door and ask if I'm feeling okay for the 50th time. I say, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just my leg hurts a little bit." That's a lie. My injuries heal fast considering the permanent energy boost I gave myself, which meant that I also had faster healing. Okay, the way it is, if you have more energy, your cells can move faster plus more, I guess. Just imagine it on 2x or something speed, and it'll be doing more, so it'll heal faster. Probably not scientifically accurate at all, but I'm going with it. I still can't believe you would do something like that. Kirishima mutters, it's so risky, but it was also really manly. Yet people are saying you are the reason All Might had a chance to defeat that monster villain that came. Kaminari tells me. I mentally groan. This sort of fame would be annoying for my undercover role. I still had to make a perfect Nomu, and I had sketches and designs all over my room right now. Shigaraki also had kindly informed me last night in the midst of gaming that he bet I couldn't succeed with my Nomu project. I'm also too petty and competitive beach to just let him have an easy victory like that. All right, class. Shut up and return to your seats, Aizawa says with his usual greeting. I hope you rested well, because I didn't, and from now on you won't be. So we're going to be sleep-deprived like you? Mina asks, and most of my classmates snort with suppressed laughter. Aizawa ignores her and continues on with his talk. Now that Akita has been released from his hospital and was able to answer Detective Tsukachi's questions, we've finally been able to build a complete report and idea of what happened on the day of the USJ attack. Some of the students shudder unconsciously, and I smirk. Yes, the mental trauma I've managed to inflict on these kids. Stand up and follow me to a conference room real quick. Nizu will break down the entire attack and our response to it there. There will also be all the other teachers of UA there, and our class in 13. We all shift to a stand and shuffle after our sleep-deprived teacher as he leads out of our floor and all the way down to the first floor before he takes a couple of confusing turns before we arrive at a large conference hall. There's a podium on top of a stage along with a projector pointed at the blank wall. There's also a small table with a computer with wires coming out of it. In front of all that was a long oval table with chairs around it enough to fit all the teachers of UA. Apparently the other students were excused from class for the day early. Plus our class of 20 and one extra teacher 13. We file in quickly and Aizawa takes the first seat before we fill in after him. There are 12 remaining seats open for the rest of the teachers. We all wait quietly, not even Kaminari talking as we all feel the pressure of the serious vibe of the conference room. Within 5 minutes, all the rest of the seats are filled with teachers. Lunch rush, midnight, snipe, present mic, lunch rush, hound dog, cementos, ectoplasm, 13, power loader, all might, recovery girl. After another minute of waiting, Nizu comes into the conference room through another door on the side of the room and stands behind the podium. Thank you students and staff for taking your time out of your day to come to this meeting. I'd like to drop the formalities seeing as how there's not that many of us here. This incident is greatly concerning as it threatens the defense and security of our school. It was quite shocking and hard for me to believe at first that this sort of violent and brash attack would be made against our school. So I really wanted to further understand the entire detail of this event. Ectoplasm's clone turns the lights in the conference room off, and it's pitch black for a couple of seconds, and I debate finishing everyone before the lights turn on. Or just 1 or 2 students or teachers, and it starts like an imposter game. But the projector starts whirling, and the light from the screen flickers across the room before I can complete my thoughts and plans, so I give up. After talking to all the students and teachers involved in this accident, we've managed to create a pretty accurate idea of what happened on the day of the attack. Nizu says, on the day of the attack, you guys were all going to enter USJ and have a natural disaster simulation and hero exercise. They're all 20 students of Class 1A, Aizawa, and 13 were attacked by a group of villains. No villain group has yet to come forward and claim the attack as theirs. Well, obviously no one would claim the attack as theirs since it was against the great UA after all. Nizu flicks through some slides of the aftermath of the attacks along with a rather good sketch that probably Bakugo made of Shigaraki. Our student Shinsher Akita himself had direct contact with what I've hypothesized as the leader of the group of villains. This was the man with the hands on his face. Here, Nizu clicks, and the next PowerPoint slide shows the sketch of Shigaraki. From the report Akita has kindly given us, we understand that this villain leader is quite mentally ill. Additionally, we have reasons to believe that they are targeting All Might in hopes of his death. They can try, Jiro says with a huff. He's the symbol of peace and the strongest hero. They're not going to be able to take him down that easily, if at all. Nizu nods. This is also what I'm suspecting, but just in case they try to attack again, I would like to propose some plans of defense for our school. The next slide shows how UA and Nizu had planned for the students and teachers to react and evacuate if there was another villain attack. I could pretty much confirm that there'll be one, so it'd be better for me to plan ahead on what measures and regulations Nizu will place. Although I don't want my attack to be too structured to easily cheat their system, or Nizu will start to suspect a traitor in UA, if he didn't already. Nizu's backup plan in case of a villain attack would be that first overall security would be tightened. And since it was clearly demonstrated that the villains could enter schools through warp gates, he would also increase the number of security cameras, so that if something out of place was spotted, the teachers could be sent immediately to deal with it. Additionally, all teachers would be given a couple break to call buttons, something similar to what the LOV that would signal the need for help or urgent assistance in case of an attack. Additionally, all students and staff will be drilled in swift and efficient evacuation through certain routes, depending on locations. There will also be a special installed dome that will keep the villains in or keep the villains out of the school. Clearly, there were several well-thought-through plans that Nizu had in place. Evacuations, trappings, communications, prevention, and fighting tactics for the school to be better well-prepared. I take mental notes as Nizu finishes his presentation and all the students and teachers nod in understanding. Thank you. Let's all hope this sort of thing never happens again, okay? Nizu says with a smile for the first time since the meeting has started. I also smile internally. Oh, I can assure this. Sort of thing will absolutely happen again. So, this was the end of part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.